Here with Michael Fabricant. And Michael, of course, you lost your seat of Lichfield, a seat you won. You held even in 1997.
Yeah.
What was different this time when you survived the last great Labour landslide, but not this one?
Well, it was a very different Labour landslide, wasn't it? It wasn't a vote for Labour, I don't think. I think it was a vote just to get the Tories out. I've fought 8 elections or 9 elections, I've lost count, and won, but the last one I didn't.
And you lost by around 800 votes. I mean, this is a very small margin when it comes to looking at the landscape. There are lots and lots of seats where, you know, if a campaign was run just ever so slightly differently, you could have clung on.
That's right. It was a loveless landslide, and you know, it was more a case, as I said, of people voting to get the Conservatives out rather than any love for Labour. Only 20.5% actually of the total electorate voted for Labour, and that's quite something.
So 34.9% of those who turned out translates to around 20% of all of those who could vote.
That's right.
But how does the party move on now? What lessons does it need to take from its defeat?
Well, it's got to deliver on what it actually wants to do. I mean, for the last few years, we have seen chaos. There's got to be unity. All the cliches you've heard before. I'm listening very closely to the 4 candidates for leadership, and I'll be choosing someone who I think not only has learned the lessons of the past, but will be a good communicator, because that's going to be important too.
You're one of the most recognisable faces of the Parliament, of the
TV News.
Oh, no doubt, and your many other television appearances. But you haven't said who you're backing yet, or even who you're leaning towards. Why is that?
Well, I've tried to keep my options open, and I do want to hear them all. But, you know, I will certainly say that as far as media presentation has been concerned, use of social media, use of a consistent message, that I have to say Robert Jenrick has done particularly well, and that's what we need with a leader of the opposition.
Is this an exclusive, Michael Fabricant? Are you prepared to say you're leaning towards Robert Jenrick?
I'm leaning towards Robert Jenrick.
But no mind made up yet?
Not firmly. I'm going to listen to all 4, but and I've just been listening to Tom Tugendhat, who wasn't quite my politics, but actually presented himself very well. I wanted to hear Kemi, but I had to come out to do this interview, so I missed it. But yeah, and I'll be in tomorrow, like so many others. And wasn't it incredible, by the way, the lines of people, the real enthusiasm at this particular conference. I think 3 weeks ago, it would have been a very dull conference, a very mournful conference. But I think people feel there's a real chance, thanks to the appalling beginning of this Labour administration, that the Conservatives could come back in 4 years' time.
Wow, so you'd say despite the biggest defeat in the Conservative Party's history, there's still, strangely, a bit of a positive mood here.
There is a positive mood. Now look, I'm a realist. In 4 years' time, people may forget. But you know what? I think Keir Starmer is deeply flawed. I actually think he's a dud. I think all the mistakes that have been made, all the gaffes, will be repeated. And let me tell you something. I used to be a government whip, and one of the instabilities in a political party is when you have a lot of new members, they panic easily. And that's what happened, of course, with Boris. If Keir Starmer doesn't find himself more popular in a year or 2, I think there'll be moves against him. And you know who ought to be taking over, and will take over, according to the Labour constitution? Angela Rayner. Now, I don't think Keir Starmer was someone that they were voting for. Will people be voting for Angela Rayner? I don't know.
Goodness me, what a prediction. Michael Fabricant, as always, thank you so much for joining us. Back to you, Martin.
Excellent stuff there, getting the exclusive, leaning towards Robert Jenrick. Tom there with Michael Fabricant.